Hello. Today I'm coming to you from Astor Place, from this big building built on the corner of Astor Place, or across from the Alamo, and right by this famous clock that's been there for years and years commemorates the Carl Fisher music publishers that, I don't know, probably aren't there anymore. So that's where I am in order to, and Cooper Union is across the street over there. And that's Lafayette Street. So anyway, for anybody who knows New York and is interested in all that stuff, that's where I am. I'm in one of these little things. It's like the Flintstones, actually. It's sort of like a Flintstones public sit area with these very comfortable stone fake marble seats that I'm sitting on. I have a book, The River's Daughter by Bridget Crocker. I heard an interview by Bridget Crocker somewhere that I listened to interviews. I don't remember exactly which show it was. It could have been The Writer's Voice with Francisca Rihanna. Probably was that. It could have been like a cult show, only probably not, because it's not really a cult sort of thing. But anyway, I did read the book. Got it from the library. It's a new book. It's 2025, and it's kind of interesting. How many books of women, memoirs of women, have I read that involve sexual abuse, as when they're children or their teen years or into their adulthood, whenever. I mean, it's something that is, maybe it's just a self-selecting thing where the people who have been, women who have been sexually abused have something to write about, something to recover from, have a story around it. But yet, we know this happens all the time. So anyway, and reading about this stuff, reading about a lot of things that are going on in human life right now tends to make me just sort of abstract myself from this life of people. It's like, okay, well, I haven't raped any women. I don't really beat up on women. I'm not this sort of predatory type. I've kind of been around the other end of it a little bit with older boys. So anyway, it just, like this and things in the news, it makes me go like, God, fucking humans are horrible, and I wish I hadn't gotten involved in any of this stuff. Anyway, the River's Daughter, in her particular case, she has a father who is from Maine, and he is not very well educated. I guess that her parents are boomers, more or less my age. Sort of some of their activity seems kind of boomerish further on in the book. So, and they live in LA, but her parents split when she's quite young, and her mother wants to go live in the mountains up in Montana, and her dad wants to stay in LA and take care of business and so forth. So, when you have a child and you're divorcing like that, there's an issue whether you can take the child out of state. Anyway, she did live out of state and away from her father, and her mother hooked up with another guy named Scully, one of these Montana guys with a big beard, and apparently a really kind of nice guy. So Scully actually comes out kind of better than any of the other male characters in the book, or most of them. But he's trying to shuttle off the stage when Mom takes up with this guy named Mark. So Mom, part of the story here is that Mom, at age 36, after being kind of a good Catholic girl and all that kind of stuff, just sort of freaks out and starts smoking pot and gets involved with some other, this is like, I don't know, the 90s or something, or 80s maybe even, gets involved with another guy who is involved in this, or one of the founders of this organization called Save the Earth. I just kind of looked up Save the Earth to see if there was actually an organization like this. In the book, they come out kind of like, maybe a sort of a eco-activist, eco-terrorist sort of group. And actually Mark has been in jail for part of the time, but none of that's really explained, like what exactly he did to get in jail, or if it was explained, I kind of missed it. So she's sort of in the fringe of this kind of, that was sort of the cult aspect of it, is that their mom got involved with the Save the Earth thing. And so what that meant is they kind of lived off the grid, and they would take, her mom would lead hiking trips up, into the, big backpacking trips up into the woods and stuff like that. So that's what her mother and her new boyfriend, and smoking pot and drinking the whole time, stuff like that. So she doesn't like that scene, and actually she is left in a little shack where she and her brother are living, while her mom is at work, and she sends one of these hippie guys over to stay there because he has no place to stay, and of course he kind of rapes her in the morning there. So that was like the first one. So she just doesn't, her mom is not protecting her. She wants to get out of there, and goes down to live with her dad, and her dad's second wife. Her dad ended up having like 4 wives or something. So her dad's like wealthy. Her dad did well in real estate, and he drives like a Porsche and stuff like that, and she can take the Jag out with her other friends. Except the problem with her dad is that he beats her up, and he beats her up for like stupid reasons. There's this horrible scene where he's rich and likes to do stuff, so he hires a big cargo van and takes she and her friends to Disneyland for her 16th birthday. And on the way back, I guess someone was tired or something, or she was tired, and anyway, she sort of reclines in the back with her head on one of the boys' laps, and her feet on one of the girls' laps, and her dad sees this in the rearview mirror when they get home, and he says, "Oh, you were giving this guy a blowjob," and she doesn't even know what a blowjob is particularly, really, or how to do it, and so it's completely, off base. So he beats the shit out of her. And she's like horrified with that, and of ultimately, she ends up meeting this other guy named Steve, who is an adventurer. These are people up in Montana and so forth. So she meets this guy named Steve, who is just recovered, who was involved with her step. A sister or mother's or an aunt or she has an aunt who's near her age, and that aunt was involved with Steve, but then dropped him after he fell off a mountain. He was a mountain climber, and with 3 of his buddies went out mountain climbing an adventure one day, and it was a disaster. The 2 buddies died, and he had to be rescued later, and I guess it was winter, so he had frostbitten toes, so he lost his toes, and so that was the end of the mountain climbing for Steve. And she hooks up with Steve, because Steve's nice to her. Steve's like 10 years older than her. So he's like, 28, and she's like 18 or something like that. So she gets all involved with Steve, and through Steve, she's all into the river in the very beginning. The Snake River is right near where she lives, and she likes to go down the river, and she recounts the story of falling in the river and then the river telling her to swim. So she has this little thing where the rivers kind of talk to her. So she gets involved with Steve, and Steve's getting involved with rafting stuff. So this is another high thrill thing like mountain climbing. It is another one of these adventure, kind of things. And this is where you get in rafts and go down rivers with rocks and big rapids. So I learned all this stuff about going down rapids from this book that I didn't know before, and I thought they were just rapids, and they were just rapids. Turns out all the rapids have categories. Like there's a category 1 rapid, there's a category 2, 3, 4, like it goes on like that. I think 6 is the max. Anyway, not that I know, but anyway, that's. So last night I did look at a little bit. I looked up category 4 rapid on YouTube. So I did see a video of these people going into this rapid in these rafts, rubber rafts, and falling off and falling into the river. And so Steve has gone from this sort of mountain climbing thing into this other risky thing of going into the rapids, where actually people die doing this because they get, she tells us all about the stuff that goes on. Like you can get sucked into holes in the rapids where there's like underground caves in the river, and you can't get out since the water's pushing down from the rapid and you can't swim back out. So, it's kind of this hellish thing that can go on. So she tells us all about that. Steve is an adrenaline junkie, so he goes from the mountain thing and can't do that anymore because of this horrible accident of falling off the mountain. So he goes into this river thing instead, this other adventure, exciting boy kind of thing. So, and it is a boy's world with the rapid goers, and anyway, you can get jobs of guides and take tourists who come to these towns and go on these rapids. So she hooks up with Steve and stays with Steve, and they both start doing this rapid thing. And she, so walking over here, I thought, The River's Daughter is the name of the book, and it's about the her erratic dad who was nice sometimes, but also beat the shit out of her. So then she calls herself the daughter of the river, which of course is river is very nice, but it can also beat the hell out of you. So so that's kind of as she escapes getting beat up by the river. She falls out of the boat a few times, but nobody's dying. But there are a couple of adventure scenes where she tells us about stuff going on. Actually, in Africa, she goes to Africa because Steve gets this gig in Africa, doing a river in Africa in Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe and Zimar. There's two African countries right by each. I should have looked up this before. Anyway, there's two African countries that border each other. So Zimbabwe is apparently more developed and so forth, and kind of a better place to live, whereas Zambia or wherever the other one is not good because they have a leader who takes all the money and gotten rich and led the revolutions and liberated from the white people, but then just got rich himself and became a scoundrel. So she's a lot of time in Africa, so we hear about the Africans and the people that come, the tourists to go on the rivers, and the contrast between the rich and the poor of Africa. And I think I've said before, I don't like being in these places where I'm the wealthy one, as any of you know who watch me, I'm not wealthy at all, so comparatively wealthy as compared to the African people who can't eat, stuff like that. So that kind of stuff, it doesn't work for me. So that's kind of basically the story, and she ends up learning how to be a guide, and ends up going back to America and having an affair with this other guy, Danny, and kind of like I was sort of holding out for Danny, but then she goes back to Steve in Africa, and Steve is kind of, the last time she was in Africa with Steve, he was kind of distracted, but anyway, they get back together, and then there's an epilogue at the end where she brings us more up to date with all the other stuff that is successful, well, coming to middle class woman ends up doing, in that she ends up getting sober. Oh, there's a lot of pot smoking. She smokes pot and drinks. There's a lot of pot smoking and drinking that goes along in the book on these adventure things and so forth. So she in the epilogue, she brings us up to date, and she did marry Steve, and they ended up splitting up, and then she married someone else, and she lives in Malibu and has a couple of children, and is involved in 12-step meetings, and presumably happy ever after. So that's kind of what goes on with the River's Daughter. As I said, it wasn't. It kind of works better, I guess, if you have a positive feeling about this sort of high adventure, high risk, sort of adrenaline-seeking lifestyle. All that stuff, like reading about that stuff, is like, Fortunately, she didn't belabor it too much as far as all the details of that. Enough that I have a little background and understand what was going on, but not too much to make it just tedious as far as all the things that go on with this raft. The rafting seems just crazy to me. They have this sort of crew that know what they're doing, and then they have these tourists that come, and then they have a little safety meeting where they kind of get trained for like 5 minutes on row this way to do this, row that way to do that, and I'll give you the commands, and we got to throw our body all this side or that side. So there's this reliance on these half-drunk tourists or whatever to do all this stuff on command properly. So anyway, it seems all just kind of crazy, and but a little interesting. So that's The River's Daughter by Bridget Crocker, as far as my perspective and my point of view has it. And we'll talk to you soon with another book.